What's up, everyone? I'm Jake the GM. Welcome back. So, today I want to talk about Pathfinder 2E's narrative and how it is built into the mechanics of the system. So, what if your rogue's thievery check wasn't just a roll, but a moment of realistic tension that had your players more immersed in the game world? Picture this: a rogue crouches before double doors, unrolling his thieves' tools with quiet precision. The doors are solid wood, their intricate carvings hinting at wealth and secrets just beyond. The party stands tense behind him, knowing these doors are not like the others they've encountered. They're meant to keep something important locked away. For now, the hall is silent, but the rogue knows the quiet won't last. He slides his tools into the lock and begins his work, his movements deliberate and confident. A faint metallic scrape signals progress, and a smirk briefly flickers across his face. But then his hand slips. He exhales sharply, resetting his grip. Determined, he starts again, every motion slower, more careful. Time stretches and the lock refuses to yield. A sound echoes faintly from the hall. Voices? The rogue's breath quickens. His hands tremble slightly, the ache in his arms growing as the tools stubbornly refuse to find the mechanism. Then it happens. A sharp snap. He slowly pulls the broken lockpick from the mechanism, its jagged edge catching the light. Rising to his feet, he shakes his head. "This lock is beyond me," he says, holding up the ruined tools. The voices grow louder and time has run out. What I just described is a narrative scene that could easily represent the mechanics behind the pick-a-lock activity in Pathfinder 2E. I have found that Pathfinder 2E's rules are designed in a way that can seamlessly translate dice rolls into moments like these, creating an immersive experience for the table. There are many examples of this throughout the system, and picking a lock is one of the great examples. Every action in Pathfinder 2E is tied to rules and mechanics, usually involving skill checks against a set DC. These checks are determined by 4 degrees of success: critical success, success, failure, and critical failure. In this example, the rogue is using the thievery skill to roll against the DC of the lock. With the required thieves' tools in hand, he is able to do this. Pathfinder defines 5 qualities of locks, each requiring a different number of successful thievery checks to unlock. The rogue's lock was an average quality lock, requiring 4 DC 25 thievery successes to open. Here's how the degrees of success impact that process. So a critical success unlocks the door immediately, or you gain 2 successes towards locks needing multiple checks. A success gains 1 success towards opening the lock, but leaves slight evidence of tampering. A failure means that no progress is made. A critical failure, your toolkit breaks and you leave obvious signs of damage. A broken toolkit can be repaired with a crafting check or replaced for a small cost. So at the game table, this scene would play out like this. The player starts rolling thievery checks. His first roll is a success, granting progress. The next 2 rolls are failures, slowing progress but not completely halting it. On the 4th roll, however, the player scores a critical failure, breaking their toolkit and leaving the rogue unable to continue. If the rogue had not critically failed, he could have continued attempting to pick the lock. The broken lockpick in the narrative signifies a critical failure, but in the story, it's not about that one critical failed check. It's about all the rolls that led up to the critical failure. Each one weaves tension, stakes, and consequences into the storytelling, turning every roll into a moment of the narrative. So I'm a GM that's new to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I used to run Pathfinder 1st Edition. I'm starting to realize that the 4 degrees of success mechanic in 2nd Edition make it easier for me as a GM to translate dice rolls at the table into a narrative that fits into my game world. By adding critical failures and critical successes to most checks in the game, the designers were able to incorporate varying levels of natural consequences into the mechanics and the system itself. When I was playing 1st edition, We used to use the crit deck and the fumble deck, which was designed only for combat encounters, and it was brutal. And as brutal as those cards were, they added so many interesting and fun moments to the story in game and at our table. I remember we would cringe in fear if we fumbled. We wouldn't want to pull the card. We'd be like, I don't want to pull the card, for fear of what was going to happen to our characters. And then if we critted on a attack roll, like we would cheer, we'd be like, yeah, we'd want to see what would happen. And it just created so much fun at the table. With the 4 degrees of success incorporated throughout the Pathfinder 2e system, we get to experience these type of exciting or dreadful moments throughout the game session. Maybe not as extreme as a crit deck, but these moments are built into the system through the 4 degrees of success. Moments like these don't just build tension at the table, they help me shape the story in ways that my players will remember. The broken lockpick isn't just a mechanical outcome, it's a defining moment. The rogue's frustration, the party's growing anxiety, and the echoing footsteps of approaching enemies all combine to create a vivid, shared memory at the table. With Pathfinder 2e's 4 degrees of success, every roll has the potential to change the narrative. Critical successes can turn a daunting challenge into a brilliant triumph, while critical failures inject moments of drama and dread that your players will talk about long after the session ends. So as a GM, you're not just adjudicating mechanics, you're crafting a dynamic story one roll at a time. Pathfinder 2e doesn't just bring dice to the table, it brings stakes, emotion, and immersion. The system empowers you to take the tension of a single skill check and weave it into a story, into the world of your campaign. Whether the rogue's lockpick snaps or their nimble fingers find success, the story unfolds in a way that just feels alive. And that's what I'm really starting to love about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's so easy for me to build a story while the dice are being rolled. Not to say that it's hard to build a story while dice are being rolled in other systems or other games. Just what I found with Pathfinder 2nd Edition's mechanics, it just feels built into me. It feels built into the system. The 4 degrees of success are mechanics that are built in all areas of the game: skill checks, spells, class abilities, encounters, exploration, and even downtime. I'm a GM that likes to translate the game mechanics into a narrative that fits in the world, and Pathfinder 2e has made that a little bit easier for me with its system. If you haven't played Pathfinder yet, I'd say give it a shot. As I learn more and more about the system, the more and more I like it. So I appreciate everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Until next time, happy GMing.